Ocean relief is largely due to tectonic, volcanic, erosional and depositional processes and their interactions. Ocean relief features are divided into major and minor relief features. Major ocean relief features. Four major divisions in the ocean relief are the continental shelf, the continental slope, the continental rise, and the deep sea plain or the abyssal plain. Minor ocean relief features: ridges, hills, seamounts, guyots, trenches, canyons, sleeps, fracture zones, island arcs, atolls, coral reefs, submerged volcanoes, and sea scarps. Continental shelf. The continental shelf is the gently sloping seaward extension of the continental plate. These extended margins of each continent are occupied by relatively shallow seas and gulfs. The continental shelf of all oceans together covers 7.5% of the total area of the oceans. The gradient of the continental shelf is 1 degree or even less. The shelf typically ends at a very steep slope called the shelf break. The continental shelves are covered with variable thicknesses of sediments brought down by rivers, glaciers, and so on. Massive sedimentary deposits received over a long time by the continental shelves become the source of fossil fuels, like petroleum. Examples include the continental shelf of Southeast Asia, the Great Banks around Newfoundland, and the submerged region between Australia and New Guinea. The shelf is formed mainly due to the submergence of a part of a continent, relative rise in sea level, and sedimentary deposits brought down by rivers. There are various types of shelves based on different sediments of terrestrial origin. Glaciated shelf surrounding Greenland, coral reef shelf in Queensland, Australia, shelf of a large river around the Nile Delta, shelf with dendritic valleys at the mouth of the Hudson River, and shelf along young mountain ranges, like the shelves between the Hawaiian Islands. The average width of continental shelves is between 70 to 80 kilometers. The shelves are almost absent or very narrow along some of the margins, like the coasts of Chile and the west coast of Sumatra. It is up to 120 kilometers wide along the eastern coast of the USA. On the contrary, the Siberian Shelf in the Arctic Ocean, the largest in the world, stretches to 1,500 kilometers in width. The depth of the shelves also varies. It may be as shallow as 30 meters in some areas, while in some areas it is as deep as 600 meters. The importance of continental shelves cannot be overstated. Marine food comes almost entirely from continental shelves. They provide the richest fishing grounds and are potential sites for economic minerals. 20% of the world production of petroleum and gas comes from shelves. Polymetallic nodules, also known as manganese nodules, which are concentric layers of iron and manganese hydroxides, are good sources of various mineral ores like manganese, iron, copper, and gold. The continental slope connects the continental shelf and the ocean basins. It begins where the bottom of the continental shelf sharply drops off into a steep slope. The gradient of the slope region varies between 2 and 5 degrees. The depth of the slope region varies between 200 and 3,000 meters. The seaward edge of the continental slope loses gradient at this depth and gives rise to the continental rise. The continental slope boundary indicates the end of the continents. Canyons and trenches are observed in this region. The continental slope gradually loses its steepness with depth. When the slope reaches a level of between 0.5 and 1 degree, it is referred to as the continental rise. With increasing depth, the rise becomes virtually flat and merges with the abyssal plain. Deep sea, plain or abyssal plain. Deep sea plains are gently sloping areas of the ocean basins. These are the flattest and smoothest regions of the world because of terrigenous and shallow water sediments that bury the irregular topography. It covers nearly 40% of the ocean floor. The depths vary between 3,000 and 6,000 meters. These plains are covered with fine-grained sediments like clay and silt. Oceanic deeps or trenches. The trenches are relatively steep-sided, narrow basins or depressions. These areas are the deepest parts of the oceans. They are of tectonic origin and are formed during ocean-ocean convergence and ocean-continent convergence. They are some 3 to 5 kilometers deeper than the surrounding ocean floor. The trenches lie along the fringes of the deep sea plain at the bases of continental slopes and along island arcs. The trenches run parallel to the bordering fold mountains or the island chains. The trenches are very common in the Pacific Ocean and form an almost continuous ring along the western and eastern margins of the Pacific. The Mariana Trench off the Guam Islands in the Pacific Ocean is the deepest trench, with a depth of more than 11 kilometers. They are associated with active volcanoes and strong earthquakes like deep focus earthquakes in Japan. This makes them very significant in the study of plate movements. As many as 57 deeps have been explored so far, of which 32 are in the Pacific Ocean, 19 in the Atlantic Ocean and 6 in the Indian Ocean. Mid-oceanic ridges or submarine ridges. A mid-oceanic ridge is composed of 2 chains of mountains separated by a large depression. The mountain ranges can have peaks as high as 2,500 meters, and some even reach above the ocean's surface. Running for a total length of 75,000 kilometers, these ridges form the largest mountain systems on Earth. These ridges are either broad, like a plateau, gently sloping, or in the form of steep-sided, narrow mountains. These oceanic ridge systems are of tectonic origin and provide evidence in support of the theory of plate tectonics. Iceland, a part of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, is an example. Seamounts and geos. A seamount is a mountain with pointed summits rising from the seafloor that does not reach the surface of the ocean. Seamounts are volcanic in origin. These can be 3,000 to 4,500 meters tall. The Emperor Seamount, an extension of the Hawaiian Islands in the Pacific Ocean, is a good example. Geos are the flat-topped mountains, or seamounts, known as guyots. Seamounts and guyots are very common in the Pacific Ocean, where they are estimated to number around 10,000. Submarine canyons. A canyon is a deep gorge, especially one with a river flowing through it. A gorge is a steep, narrow valley or ravine, and a valley is a low area between hills or mountains or a depression, typically with a river or stream flowing through it. These are deep valleys, some comparable to the Grand Canyon of the Colorado River. They are sometimes found cutting across the continental shelves and slopes, often extending from the mouths of large rivers. The Hudson Canyon is the best-known canyon in the world. Broadly, there are 3 types of submarine canyons. Small gorges which begin at the edge of the continental shelf and extend down the slope to very great depths, for example, oceanographer canyons near New England. Those which begin at the mouth of a river and extend over the shelf, such as the Zaire, the Mississippi, and the Indus canyons. And those which have a dendritic appearance and are deeply cut into the edge of the shelf and the slope, like the canyons off the coast of Southern California. The Hudson Canyon is the best-known canyon in the world. The largest canyons in the world occur in the Bering Sea off Alaska. They are the Bering, Pribilof, and Jemchung canyons. Atoll. These are low islands found in the tropical oceans consisting of coral reefs surrounding a central depression. It may be a part of the sea, like a lagoon, or sometimes form enclosing a body of fresh, brackish or highly saline water. Bank, shoal and reef. These marine features are formed as a result of erosional, depositional and biological activity. These are produced upon features of diastrophic or earth movements origin. Therefore, they are located on the upper parts of elevations. These marine features are formed as a result of erosional and depositional activity. A bank is a flat-topped elevation located in the continental margins. The depth of water here is shallow, but enough for navigational purposes. The Dogger Bank in the North Sea and Grand Bank in the northwestern Atlantic, Newfoundland, are famous examples. The banks are sites of some of the most productive fisheries in the world. A shoal is a detached elevation with shallow depths. Since they project out of water with moderate heights, they are dangerous for navigation. A reef is a predominantly organic deposit made by living or dead organisms that forms a mound or rocky elevation like a ridge. Coral reefs are a characteristic feature of the Pacific Ocean, where they are associated with seamounts and guyots. The largest reef in the world is found off the Queensland coast of Australia. We will study coral reefs in future posts. Since the reefs may extend above the surface, they are generally dangerous for navigation. Ocean relief controls the motion of seawater. The oceanic movement in the form of currents, in turn, causes many variations in both oceans and in the atmosphere. The bottom relief of oceans also influences navigation and fishing.